Hi everybody, Josiah here, also known as Chilling Silence, and we're taking a bit of a break from our regularly scheduled program today to look into something that is more broadly affecting the crypto community at large at the moment and respond to a couple of the questions that I've had specifically around DigiByte and are we affected. So, before we get started, I want to preface this by saying that I am not a lawyer. I'm not even in the United States, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, but I do have a little bit of insight into some of the history of DigiByte, and I want to kind of share that with you today. So, in question here, top crypto exchanges and token issuers have been named on Friday in a barrage of class action lawsuits. So, scrolling down here, what we have on the 3rd of April, we have Binance, Civic, B Protocol, Status, Block 1, Byblock, Tron Foundation, KuCoin, a whole bunch of others, including the likes of Dan Larimer, who was behind EOS, BitShares, Steam, etc. Binance founder CZ, BitMEX co-founder. Anyway, so they're nicknaming this the Crypto Red Wedding, which is kind of funny. I like that reference. Whatever. Now, I'm not specifically going into the details of if I think this is deserved or not. Anybody who's been watching this channel for any time at all will know I've been quite outspoken about my feelings there. But more specifically, how does this play into DigiByte? Is there any kind of an issue for us? Now, if we look at all of these ones, they're all basically centrally issued, 100% pre-mine, kind of that sort of jazz as well. Very, very different from DigiByte. We only have to look at the likes of Tron and things like that, which are effectively run on a handful of centralized servers, again, that are either controlled by Tron or by Justin Sun's buddy CZ, Binance, who also happens to be named in these lawsuits, so fun times. DigiByte, on the other hand, run on hundreds and hundreds of different nodes across the world, if not thousands. Nobody centrally controls these at all. Anybody can spin one up, and anybody can produce blocks and contribute to the security of the network in a completely permissionless and decentralized manner. The key part there, I suppose, is permissionless. There is not any one entity that holds the keys to the kingdom as such. So, if we go down, they go into a whole bunch of details. It's kind of an interesting read here. Long story short, though, this one. A lawsuit against the Tron Foundation challenges the notion that TRX is anything like Bitcoin, which is what people were basically told and sold when they were first selling these tokens. They made them 100% pre-mined, they were selling them to the public. Now, contrast this to DigiByte. DigiByte had a 0.5% pre-mine, of which it is all being distributed. These were not sold at all. Now, we can go to the original Bitcoin talk here, and last edited, when was this last edited? October 2018. Jared, for some reason, is no longer able to update this. That's why the information that's on there is relatively stale. There's information about what things were in the past, though, which has been left up there for historical purposes, but these original messages can no longer be edited. This is why it mentions core 6.1, 6.5, because it's old as hell right now, and for whatever reason, he's unable to edit this, despite having access to that account. Whatever. But anyway, so back to the 0.5% pre-mine that DigiByte did have. If we come all the way back down here, I'm sure it mentions it. Yeah, so 0% pre-mine remaining. Do we have more details about it? I'm sure there was info somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Okay, pre-mine accounts. So, it was split into two different parts. Now, the 0.25%, so half of that 0.5% pre-mine, was effectively given away to people in the community. What you had to do was download the wallet originally, fire it up, get yourself an address, and you would receive those DigiByte. The distribution details are all on Bitcoin Talk. You can scroll up and down the pages to your heart's content. It's not just under this original article that you see here either. There is a separate thread, which you can go and find. I don't have that in front of me. I'm terribly sorry. This is kind of all rather impromptu, but it's out there. Anyway, and you can find the details. People spun up accounts, and they downloaded the blockchain. Now, the reason that this was done was back in the day, a lot of projects were I think this is kind of twofold. Okay, so historically back in 2013, a lot of projects were highly pre-mined, and you would find that a developer would create a project, they would start it off, they would tweak it a little bit from either Bitcoin or Litecoin, for example, get it listed on an exchange, get people really excited, get people wanting to buy it, and then they would go and they would sell off their huge, like 20, 40, 70% pre-mine. DigiByte, on the other hand, only had a 0.5% pre-mine, and Jared, as the original developer, kept none of that whatsoever. So half of that was distributed to the community to encourage them to go and download the wallet and keep it running and keep the blockchain out there and distributed and dispersed. Because one of the other things that we saw a lot in 2013, 2014 was that projects would start off with a hiss and a roar, but only one or two people would have the actual blockchain itself. People would simply just mine it, trade it on an exchange, and then they close down their wallet. And you would find that projects would effectively stall because other people firing it up for the first time couldn't find anybody to peer with. So that was the reasoning and the logic behind that. And it did a really great job of cementing DigiByte during the early days. Now, the other 0.25%, which was 50% of the 0.5% pre-mine, hope I've got those numbers all right. Specifically, yeah, so they mentioned here they've got bounty rewards and things like that. Now, a lot of that went to the likes of, I think we actually even mentioned it here, yeah. So I think it was Exploited was the name of the guy who actually did the original Android wallet, and details behind that. All of that was subsequently sold. It's my understanding that it was sold later on at either Poloniex or Bittrex in mid to late 2014. And at the time, so that's all effectively circulating in the open now. It was sold on the open market at a value of like $5,000 or something at the time. I don't have the specific details, but that is roughly what happened. So that's why if you go here, you'll see things like it mentions a 0.5% pre-mine, so 0% now. Note, we are now at a 0% pre-mine. The entire pre-mine has been given away or used for development. So I want to clarify that development did not go to Jared. This went to other third-party developers to incentivize them to come and contribute to DigiByte. And it worked quite well. So because, I mean, hey, look, we're still here today. We're still alive and kicking, and I think that's great. Now, this is obviously very different from what we have here with the Tron tokens. The creation of TRX tokens thus occurred through a centralized process, in contrast to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, I mean, Ethereum still kind of did anyway. That's a little bit whatever. This, however, would not have been apparent at issuance to a reasonable investor. Rather, it was only after a passage of time and disclosure of additional information about the issuer's intent, process, management, and success. Long story short, what they're claiming is that Tron, for example, tried to pull the wool over people's eyes and say, hey, we're just like Bitcoin. Hey, you can buy these tokens from us. Yes, we own 100%. Well, actually, they didn't say we own 100% of them to start with. Whatever. Anyway, so that's very different, obviously, compared with DigiByte, where, to begin with, DigiByte was incredibly upfront. There was a 0.5% pre-mine. They were all given away. They were not sold. There was no exchange of funds or anything along those lines. Now, DigiByte and certain people in the DigiByte community have previously gone and obtained a formal legal opinion about if DigiByte is a security and if there is any legal risk. I do not have this in front of me. I've seen the document, though. I was actually involved, and people requested information from me regarding, how things started off about DigiByte, despite the fact I wasn't even around back then when it first began, which is kind of funny, but whatever. And this legal document, they went to a law firm. They said, hey, do you think that based on these criteria, we are going to be a security? The law firm came back and basically said, no. As far as we're concerned, there's no problem. But again, this is obviously only our legal opinion, but our formal legal opinion on a signed letterhead with our name and details and all of those juicy things. Now, the reason that we got this back in the day was a number of exchanges were asking for this in specific. Coinbase was one of them. Now, the really funny thing is, if we go all the way down here, this is the GDAX framework. Now, this is something that I completed back in the day, along with the help of a couple of other people, and we had somebody go and spice it up for us. Thank you, Demir. Really appreciate it. Looks sexy as hell. Anyway, you can download it here and view it yourself. Otherwise, it's embedded here. I wonder if we can go through. I don't think it actually... We mentioned the pre-mine in there somewhere. Yeah, here we go, okay. DigiByte was one of the few coins around. There was a 0.25% given away to the public to encourage early adoption, along with 0.25% supporting development during the first 18 months, both of which is disclosed on the website. Funding continued throughout. So that wasn't actually entirely true. It wasn't actually even the first 18 months. To be honest, I think it was only the first 6 months, but, you know, whatever. Do we have any more details specifically around that? Legal and compliance. Yeah, here we go. So this is the juicy part. DigiByte is not classified as a security using the Coinbase securities law framework. Now, you can go when you are filling out their... Have I got screenshots of it? Yeah. Their listing application form, which was actually just a Google Doc. Do they have a link straight to it? Do they mention it anywhere? Apply at listing.coinbase.com. Ooh, hey, this is new. This is definitely not what it looked like the first time. No application fees. Oh, that's funny. Righto. Digital asset framework. Hang on, let's go back here. Oh yeah, this is what we basically went through and filled out. And so this, if you have a look, is very similar to all of these, which is why we've specifically got a nice table of contents here, and they should mostly match, but anyway. So long story short, we went through now Coinbase, what do we call it? Securities framework? Something. I had it there, it's gone, whatever. Now the Coinbase security framework was specifically a list of like a Q&A in a spreadsheet format, and you could go through and ask Coinbase. Oh, that was right, it was down here, wasn't it? Yeah, if we go all the way down to like legal and compliance. Yeah, the Coinbase securities law framework. They link you to this partway through, I think, the application process. Now, you go through and you fill out a bunch of details, and it comes back and it gives you a rating, say out of like 100 or something, or a score, I think it was. And if memory serves me right, we actually had like a negative score. So if you were like, let's say 20 to 50, it was like, no, you're in the clear, you're probably not a security. If you were like 50 to 70, it was like, you may be a security. If you're like 80 to 120, then yeah, you're probably a security on their scoring. If memory serves me right, we were actually like in the negative, according to theirs. It was really like the math was all really messed up on this particular spreadsheet. But we were effectively like a negative, like definitely not a security in any way, shape, or form. So that was quite funny. So a little bit of history, a little bit of insight there. But so comparatively, this with the likes of TRX, why the law and why these particular people, this law firm here, where are we? By the Roche Friedman law firm. The astute observer may recall that this firm for the work in the lawsuits against Craig Wright and the Bitfinex exchange. So they've got a bit of history to them. There is a lot of credibility to this. And it's my non-legal opinion in any way, shape, or form, my relatively uneducated opinion, that they've probably got a pretty damn good case. DigiByte, though, is basically not up for grabs in this instance. There is nothing for you to worry about here. For the most part, the broader consensus is that there is no securities issue with DigiByte. We were launched fairly. Nobody's tried to sell anything. There's been no exchange of goods or anything like that. Anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see how this all plays out. As for me, I'm really not concerned about anybody trying anything with DigiByte because there is no centrally controlling body, whatever. And good luck shutting down the tens of thousands of servers that are out there. Anyway, if you do have any questions, feel free to fire away in the comments below. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even in the US. I'm certainly not a securities framework specialist, but I have, like I mentioned, gone through and completed this document before for the likes of Coinbase, and so I would like to hope that I do have a little bit of an insight in there. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you found this at least a little bit insightful and a little bit informative, and maybe at least it's put your mind at ease a bit about what's going on there. And yeah, if I were you, I would not be worried about DigiByte. Anyway, feel free to dive into it yourself, though. Go do a little bit more digging and see what you come up with. If you do have questions, sing it in the comments below. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at DGB_chilling. Otherwise, we'll talk to you in the next video, which is hopefully going to be tomorrow. We'll be back with our regular DigiByte update broadcasts. Cheers.